Hey, how's it going? It's Carl, aka Carl Drum Tech. I'm here right now at Lomita, California. I'm here with my friend Joey Arteaga, who we were just drinking some boba over here, and we're just talking about like some experiences about drum corps and indoor percussion. And Joey is super experienced on that end, and I thought that having him here on this video is going to provide tremendous value to people who are watching this, especially bass drummers out there and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think it's going to be great. But let's just go a little bit of background, right? So Joey's a former student of mine at Torrance High School. I remember like you started out like playing front ensemble.
Yeah,
like Pit, right?
I did Pit for a year.
Yeah. I remember you playing vibraphone.
Yeah, vibraphone, a little bit of marimba. Yeah, just learning how to read music.
Nice. And then, but you did middle school before that too, right?
Right. Yeah, I did a little battery stuff.
Okay, cool. And then you eventually went to the Battery, played some bass drum, right? And then played some tenors.
It's a tenor spirit. We don't talk about that.
Okay, fine. Played bass drum the whole time, his entire career, fine. And then went on from there and marched OCI.
Orange County Independent. Yeah.
Orange County Independent, which is now
Broken City Percussion.
Broken City Percussion.
I marched
right?
the open class days in the first year in world class.
Nice, very cool. And I remember seeing them this year. They were amazing.
Oh yeah,
amazing. And then you ended up also going to RCC.
Right.
So you just aged out from RCC this past winter. You did RCC also the year before that.
2015, 2016.
And during all that, you also marched Blue Knights. All this on bass drum. Okay. So Blue Knights aged out this past summer.
Right.
And 2015, and then marched in 14.
Yes.
So there you go. So obviously Joey's super experienced. I've seen him perform live and in action, and he's absolutely amazing. He's grown so much. Coming from humble beginnings, playing vibes and stuff like that, to splitting freaking 30-second notes, double stop scales to 30-second splits, and and we were just kind of having had a quick chat over here, at the tea shop, and just there's a lot of stories that came out, and I kind of wish we had turned on the camera earlier, but yeah, like talk about your experience, in drum corps and what that was like. Talk about your experience, with the indoor percussion thing, and I just kind of take your pick as far as like what you want to talk about first.
All right, well, I'll go with drum corps. So I remember in high school, I didn't really care for the drum corps activity because a lot of students that I marched with did open class corps, and they kind of came back and were like super hardcore bando, like this is the way we do things, we run back to whatever. Me being the high school kid I am, was like, dude, I just want to chill. Like band's fun. Like yeah, let's just hang out and do things. Like I kind of got a negative aspect of the activity like right off the bat because I didn't really know what it really was, just how it changed people, like my friends or like that didn't like it. So me being me, I kind of I was like, all right, let me go to a show, let me see what it's like, and just going to a show. I used
What
to
show do you go to?
I used to love going to the Bellflower Open Class Jam show.
Sure.
I used to watch like VK when they were still around, SCVC. I watched a little bit of BDB. I didn't really know what it was at the time, but like it's like oh, okay, like these people are really good. Like what are they doing? Me being me, it was like drum corps still whatever. Like,
So it didn't inspire you?
No, I was like I would never do drum corps whatever. Blah, 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 blah. And just as time went on, like I started marching independent and like doing this and that. I had friends who'd be like, oh yeah, I'm marching this place this summer. Like oh, it's gonna be super fun. Like these instructors are here. It's like oh yeah, well I might give it a shot one day. Like all right, whatever. So I had wanted to march a couple of years, but I never had the money. Like obviously it's really expensive doing independent and drum corps. But the opportunity came when I was marching Orange County Independent in 14, and a bunch of my staff, Mike Jackson, Veronica Hidalgo, like all these people were moving over to Blue Knights for the first year. And I was like, sure, let me audition, let me see how it is. And just, I went out, and fortunately, like I was able to make it. I made it to the callback round, I got the spot after callbacks, and it was super great.
I'm sure it helped that you had experience with OCI.
Yeah, okay, maybe a little connection.
Okay, fine. Connections.
A lot of prior, experience drumming too, so that helped. But I didn't really know what to expect. Like people had always said, drum corps is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do in your life. And I was like, oh man, like does that mean my body's gonna die? Like, Advil is your best friend or it's your candy. I was like, all right, we'll see how it is. And it definitely was. Like, it pushed my body to the limits, but I felt like drum corps was a lot more than just kind of drumming and physical activity. It was a lot of friendships that were created. Like, I think some of the biggest memories I take away from that are just times I shared with my friends or new things that I made. It was a really fun experience. As hard as it was, I had a really good time. It taught me a lot, kind of about how to live life as opposed to just drumming.
think what was your favorite part about doing drum corps and doing the summer gig?
Doing drum corps, I gotta say that my favorite part was always walking out onto the field. I think at wildly different shows. Like every show in different states were way different crowds. Like you could be performing in a small town for like 100 people maybe one night, and be at like Bronco Stadium performing in front of thousands the next. And it's like every time, like as they announce your corps and you see the reactions of people, it's really fulfilling knowing that people are here to watch you perform beautiful music, and that some people can just be moved solely by what you do with a drum on a field.
Right.
It's like it's an incredible thing to think about. It's like one of the greatest memories I have too is, especially in Blue Nights 14, our show That 1 Second was really kind of about living life and like cherishing the moments you have. It resonated with a ton of people. So after shows, sometimes our staff or our corps director would like read us messages or emails or stuff that people would post online about what the show meant to them or what memories they had and like why it meant so much. It was just incredible to know that just some little thing, that just being one little part of a 150 person ensemble could do so much to create such an amazing product that resonates with people.
Wow, that is absolutely
It was
amazing.
insane.
Wow.
Very cool.
So what about, so let's say, I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there, who have questions like, how do you make it into a group like the Blue Knights? How do you make it into a group like OCI and RCC? So OCI was like your first audition.
OCI was my first ever independent audition. Like I didn't know anybody there. I just knew one of the staff members, and that was pretty much it. Like I was like, all right, well hopefully I learned a lot in high school.
Sure.
I was able to go.
So what advice would you give those people who are auditioning for the first time? And what kind of tips could you give them so that they have the best chance they can possibly get to make it into a line like that?
I'd say it comes down to two strong things, and things that I look for when I run auditions places. Fundamentals, like definitely feet timing is an important thing. Like hopefully instructors will have always said like hands to feet is way important. Like it matters a lot when you're on the field and when you're standing there doing warm-ups. Like every little thing you do comes down to how your hand relates to your feet. It's like whether it's like triplet grid or just eights or like any basic thing, make sure you're able to play with your feet at any tempo. Like it goes down a long way, because when you're doing complicated choreography and playing really hard book, it's like you need to understand how it relates. You have to be the same with everybody else. You can't just do your thing and hope it works out.
Right.
At the high level, it just doesn't work out that way. You can't just guess. So fundamentals, specifically with hand and feet, and just rudiments, being able to understand basic techniques, stuff like that. And then I'd say the second most important thing, or probably the most important thing, is being open to critique, or being open to new ideas. It's like, because every place you go, drum's completely different. Like places that instructors of the Blue Knights teach way differently than instructors of the Cavaliers. Like there's different philosophies everywhere you go. It's like you have to understand the way that instructors think and the way that the corps performs, and how you can adapt to that.
And it's not necessarily wrong, it's different.
No, there's no such thing as like a wrong way of drumming. Like we all have our personal opinions on whether it's like our right or wrong, but there's nothing inherently right or wrong about drumming as a whole. People just drum differently.
Right.
So it's like you have to be ready for whatever people can throw at you and just be open to it.
Right. I mean, there's guys in Africa who are just like, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But it's still
like
awesome,
up,
right?
Yeah. Especially like in bass drumming too. It's like there's two main techniques, like wrist break and wrist turn, and different drum corps like cadets, Cavaliers, wrist turn. Like Blue Devils, Blue Knights, wrist break. Like it's different kind of ways of drumming.
How do you define wrist break, wrist turn?
Wrist turn is more of like a turning the doorknob technique. It's like it's used for more power. Like some people play that way. Wrist break is more like a knock on the door. So it's like so it goes out. They're different motions. You might be used to a certain way of drumming depending on how you've been taught. Like I was taught for a little while in high school to like it's like turning a doorknob. Mm-hmm. And it's like later on I was taught no, it's like knocking on a door. It's like this feels different. One will feel more natural than the other, and it's like they're neither right or wrong. I have my personal preference. Everybody has their personal preference, but those are the two main techniques, and different places drum different ways. So you have to be ready to adapt to that. Or they might give you technique comments like whether you've had great technique in high school or like your instructors always said, this is how you should drum. People might think differently, and you might have to adapt to that depending on where you want to go.
Right. What about is there a different mentality? Is there a type of mentality you should have? Like, is there a kind of like mental state you should put yourself in? Like,
Wait, in an
obviously,
audition?
there's people who go in there who are nervous, right? So, what kind of mentality do you think you should have going in?
In an audition, you mean?
Yeah.
Going in, I'd have to say just don't think of it too. I'd say the biggest problem is a lot of people think of it too much as a competition. Like they go into this audition when it's true, you do have to be better than the people around you. That's not all that matters. It's like I think how you vibe and how well you can play with other people also determines that. Like,
Sure.
yeah, like it's very important to make sure that you're doing your gig, like playing with the Met, with playing everything your parts correctly, with in time with each other. But you also have to know how to. It's hard to like put it into words, but I'd say to vibe with one another. Like whether it's during a rep or just during off time, like meeting new people, being open. I feel like that's a really important thing. Is being open and being friendly with others.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah. Don't go too far as to annoy people.
Yeah.
But like definitely don't isolate yourself, especially in the bass drumming world. It's like you can't really do that.
Sure.
It's like you can't be one person in the bass line.
Yeah.
So I figure that goes a long way.
Wow.
Is to have a really warm mentality, really be really open, be really happy to be there.
Right.
Don't let the nerves get to you. Like at the end of the day, you're still learning something new from new people, and it's like it's something you should be excited about.
Right.
Being in a new place. So.
Right. Absolutely. So, obviously being a part of RCC this year, I'm sure a lot of people know about everything that happens and stuff like that. And I don't know if you want to talk about the experience or not, but you can if you want to, like what happened. But like, what was your biggest takeaway from that situation?
Well, going into it, I gotta say, like, it was probably one of the scariest experiences of my life. Sitting on the
Is it okay
floor
to give context and let people know exactly what happened?
Well, okay, I'll let you know. So, with RCC this year, if you weren't following the WGI scene, RCC is one of the consistent top placing groups, and we did really well prelims night. We scored first for the day, so we were really hyped about that. And semis night, our mixer went out, and we had a really long setup time trying to fix that because we didn't want to perform without the electronics. So at the end of the day, because of a large penalty, we were seated 14th place or second of the day for finals night, which is a really big jump to make. So just being there, waiting for the setup, semis night, was just horrifying. Like not knowing if your electronics were going to turn on at all, whether like if you're going to perform with them. So it was definitely not a fun night, but the crowd reaction finals night I think definitely made it worth it. We had a lot of people rooting for us. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I really I wouldn't have. I don't know. It was definitely an unexpected experience, but a lot of fun.
Was there a lot of lessons gained? Do you think?
I think so. Like I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was like just cherish every performance you have. Like whether it's like, oh, I have 12 performances this season, this one doesn't matter.
And
like,
everything's gonna go perfectly.
Oh yeah, it never does. Like there's always something that happens, whether it's a huge mistake or a small mistake. Like there's always something that happens every time. So it's like definitely say, yeah, that was a great show, or like I really hope I have a good show today. Like every show you do is important, whether you think it is, or whether you're in RCC or whether you're in a bottom group. Like it mattered. Everything matters. So yeah, that's one thing I definitely learned.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, I remember watching that. And it was just like, what? Like, what happened? And then, like, because you see the score, you see the placement, and you're like, what happened exactly?
That was the most interesting thing is that a lot of people didn't know.
Right.
A lot of people just saw 14th place RCC and were like, this can't be. Like, this has to be an error. Like, what happened? Did RCC just have a terrible show?
Well, I saw the penalty.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's what I saw. So I figured, okay, what was it for?
Yeah. What happened? Like, did somebody get hurt, something like that? Yeah.
Right.
But just repeating the situation to people and like telling them, it was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And that must have been nerve-wracking on the court, basically on the floor, like waiting.
Oh, yeah, just not knowing what's going to happen.
You said it was like, like 10 minutes
it felt
maybe?
like it was like about 10 minutes. It was at least 6 or 7 minutes, but it was terrifying. The crowd just sitting there watching you as you're just waiting to start. It's scary, man. But
and it can happen to the best groups.
It can happen to anybody. That's what I learned. It can happen to anybody. I think like talking about the summer even. Like did you hear about Blue Levels with their big ocean tarp got stolen or disappeared? It's like they went into the big regional without it, just not knowing, like, oh, well, I guess we don't have it. Like, just hours before we realized that it wasn't there. So it was just, to any group, like, anything could happen. You never know. So it's like, take everything seriously.
Cherish every
cherish everything, take it seriously. Where it's like, oh no, we're RCC, we're Pulse, we're MCM. We don't. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Everything matters.
You think like this only happens to the A groups.
Oh. Well, I mean, that's one of the cool things about being from like A class high school and then going to open class, independent to world class. It's like you see it all, and it's like the things that you think you leave behind, and like the lower, and like when you're lower, or like with a less organized group, it can come back to haunt you, or like something can come back and happen in ways you wouldn't expect. Like, you know? It's like I never expected something like that to happen at RCC, but it does, and.
It gives you a greater perspective.
Yeah, and I think it helps everybody become more wary of stuff like that. Like, be wary of the little details, because anything can happen,
Right.
But
right.
It was definitely an important lesson.
Right. Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So you being this great bass drummer, I mean you
great
are
bass drummer.
You're great. Did I make it sound like you're not?
No.
You sound like you're kind of being sarcastic.
I'm just I'm not that great.
But I mean you obviously have experience. You march at the highest levels. So and then you have kids out there who are learning bass drum and want to learn and want to know all the tips and tricks of the trade. So what do you think are the most important things to think about in terms of bass drumming and how to be a good bass drummer? And what do you think are the most important aspects of bass drumming?
Most important aspects. It definitely comes down to like what I said before, hand to feet. Because you're playing up, you can play downbeats, upbeats, certain parts of things that might not make any sense. It's really important to understand how that relates to tempo and to feet. So it's like always play everything with a met. I'm trying to think of what else. Hand mechanics, it's like important to have a basis, but it's really defined as you like learn from an instructor, like from different places, because everybody drums differently. So you can't really give a definite way of bass drumming. But for me, I feel like one of the most important things is just the mental aspect, understanding every part and like how it correlates with each other, how it works with your feet. I like to look at bass parts as a whole. Like, let's say I'm auditioning for bass 3, I don't like to just look at bass 3 parts at first. I like to look at how does the split work? Like, what's the rhythm of the split? Where does it line up with that? And how does it work when it's put all together?
Right.
Because, especially at an audition, you don't know what drum you're going to be playing on. You can go in, like, I have all the bass 3 parts memorized, I can do it, I have it highlighted, all that stuff. The instructor will be like, hey, try bass 4.
Right.
I've seen it with kids, and they freeze up because they don't know anything about it. It's like, it's a hard thing to do to just, take away all this knowledge you do.
Interesting.
So it's like, when it comes to bass drumming, it's just, I'd say knowing the entire part as a whole is what's really important at the end.
That's almost kind of counterintuitive to like.
A little bit,
because I remember how I used to teach. I would teach it like, learn your part, focus on your part, highlight your part, and just focus on that.
It's definitely important because you need to make sure that your part's with the rhythm at all times and always. But it's like, at the end of the day, you're 5 people playing a part. It's not just your part on a page. It's 5 different parts that need to work together.
Just like if you're a tenor player, you're not just focusing on what is drum 3 doing.
5, 6 different drums that you need to make sure you're working on. So, yeah, it definitely goes a long way to understand everything as a whole. I don't like to highlight my parts because things can change or like might be on a different drum. So it helps starting out because it helps you see the music better, where it lines up. But
as you get more
especially when it
advanced.
comes to advanced levels or auditions, it's like stray away from that or like understand more things. Be ready to have stuff thrown at you.
Wow.
Because definitely some auditions, just like, hey, try splitting this. Hey, play this, part. Or hey, let's learn this warm up and play it real quick. It's like, you have to be ready to adjust at a moment's notice.
Sure. So what about? I've always been fascinated about the concept of split like 6 tuplets or 30 seconds, like for me, I'm just like, how the heck do you do that? Like, I can't even imagine, like, okay, I'm gonna play some 8th notes right now, and I'll play the upbeat 16s. Like, like
playing each individual.
Right. So as a bass drummer, you guys do that kind of thing all the time.
Right.
So how would you? I mean, and this is it safe to say that this is like an advanced concept?
A little bit.
Okay, so how would you go about, approaching that if you are starting to learn that advanced concept, and like, what's the most important mentality you need to have, or what's the element that you need to learn in order to successfully play split fast notes?
Consistency with rhythms at any tempo. Like, everybody thinks they can just play 8th notes like at a tempo, but you have to be able to, when it comes to a split, you have to make sure your 8th notes are perfect. You're splitting that part with somebody else. So like, let's say like, I'd say always start learning splits slow, at the basic level. Like especially like 8th note, 16th note splits, take it at a slower tempo. Make sure that each note is consistent. They're able to play consistent 8th notes or 16th notes at that tempo. And then, you can start ramping it up and whatever. What I like to do at a little more advanced level is focus on the first note. Like somebody will just have consistent 8th notes going, play the first note. Make sure you can get one note going at a time. Just and then start adding more at a time and make sure that your hand is consistent. And at some point, eventually, you'll be able to just consistently play 8th notes offset without even thinking of the tempo.
Sure. How much is it? How much is it like figuring out meter wise, like how it relates to your feet? How much is it like feel? What's the ratio?
More of the, I'd say like, it depends on the bass drummer. Some people are more adept at thinking about each individual note and how it lines up, and their brain's able to move fast enough to process that as they're going. Some people, like I personally do, I just feel it. Like I get the first note and just go from there. Hope it works out. Yeah.
Right.
But I'd say for the more basic splits, then you can think of like playing it with your feet, with the
really
tempo
break
and
it
all
down.
stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, let's say you're playing at 180, like a fast 16-note split, you can't think of going like you probably can, but it's not easy. It isn't always practical, especially at more complicated splits like fives or other stuff like that, upping hair toes. It's like you can only do so much when it comes to splits.
Right. Awesome. No, that's great knowledge, and hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. I can see that my camera is slowly dying, which is that sucks. I wasn't totally prepared. But if we can wrap this up, just in case this thing dies, what's the last thing you can give, like as far as like tips or something helpful that a bass drummer or any percussionist can use so that they can better themselves and get better? And
never be discouraged. Like I've had quite a few times where like I'll see a really hard split or I can't get it for like the first few days. I'll just want to give up on it. It's not gonna work. It's like there's always a way and a will to make something work. It's like always try your hardest. Like, never just say I can't do it, because you can start wherever you are. Like, you can end up somewhere great. Like, you can start at some lower high school or a school without a program in general and still make it to
or instructors.
Or
some
without
programs don't have instructors. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, just student run. It's all about just taking the right attitude and the right drive to make it somewhere big, and it can happen. I mean, it's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of friends I've seen that come from random high schools that didn't have a program or something like that, and make it to blue levels or blue coats or any big indoor group too. It happens.
Right. I've always been fascinated with like how close knit bass drummers are.
Oh, yeah.
Like obviously it's like I've heard stories of like go to the bathroom and pee together. I mean stuff like that, right? It's
Yeah.
So how important is that camaraderie, that closeness?
I'd say extremely important. Like normally when it comes to drumming aspects, you don't think that like a vibe you have with somebody, like whether you get along with somebody, would matter. From my personal experience, like how close you are with somebody and how well you get along makes or breaks your bass line. Because it's like you understand each other on a more personal level, and you're able to learn more about the person with not just the way they are, but like with the way they drum, just from knowing or like paying attention to them. Like you're able to learn habits, different things. You're able to work on stuff together. It's like you're able to adapt to what you do just based off of knowing the person. So I feel like having a bass line close knit, spending time with each other, getting to know each other goes a long way when it comes to success.
Nice. Yeah. Did you see the Possibly Possessed Fit Girl?
I did.
What did you think of that?
It's interesting. I feel like it wasn't anything crazy to me, because it's like
you see that kind of thing all the time.
That's the show. It's performance.
Yeah.
Like especially in the pit, like you see them express a ton. Like with anything they do, it's
Right.
like it's really expressive.
Right.
Just for the sake of time, and like what they do. So it's like it wasn't anything crazy to me, but obviously like,
The general
it took
public,
the world by storm.
Sure.
Because people had no idea what it was. People were like, "This isn't what marching band does. This isn't what this isn't how the activity works." But it's like little do you know, like in the activity, we do this on a daily basis.
Wow.
Like especially in drum corps, it's like whether you're doing a rep, perform the heck out of it always. It's like I applaud her for
Right.
doing her thing.
But she's just doing her job. I mean,
yeah,
that's just,
she's doing her job. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great that it's getting the recognition it is.
right.
It's super cool that people are aware of this kind of performance that goes on with our activity. It's not just shakos and band outfits. Doing marching stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a lot to it. I think it's super cool.
Right. The activity's come a long way.
And it continues to evolve. Just
That's
from
true.
starting in high school to what it is now.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah, in the last 7 years or whatever, right? You've
it's
seen
been
the
like
changes. 10, okay.
It's been almost 10.
For me, it's been longer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, nice, okay. Awesome, very cool. Thank you so much for being on my video today.
problem.
Is there any like social media stuff that you want people to follow you in case they, you know, if that's something you want to do? Like,
No, I think it's cool.
you're very private. That's cool. All good.
I'm a little private with my
yeah,
social
that's
media.
totally cool. Totally cool. So, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, make sure you leave it in the comments below. I'll relate to him.
Yeah, I'll get Carl. Yeah, I'll answer them for Carl.
And then I will comment back to you what his responses were, so we can do it that way. But if you like this video, make sure you guys like this video. It really helps out the channel. It helps me out a lot. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Make sure you subscribe. He says don't do it, so
No,
you know,
no.
don't.
Why aren't you subscribed?
Thanks. I appreciate that. If you think this can help somebody else, maybe a bass drummer in your line, make sure you share this video with them as well. There's so many like amazing nuggets that came out of here, like information wise, that are so valuable to bass drummers or just drummers in general. So thank you for that. Dude,
Thank you, Carl.
that was awesome, man. So again, thanks guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Later.